Hey, hi everyone. Thanks and welcome to this interesting session. So I have with me Senior Director of Product Rajiv from Meesho. Rajiv and I have actually worked at Gojek before, so we do share some common stories back from those days. And also, I would like to welcome Hitachi. Hitachi is VP at Phone Shop Cashify. Hi, Hitachi. Welcome.
Hey Prasun, hi Rajiv.
Hey, hi Prasoon and hi
Well,
Tash.
I'll also just quickly introduce myself. Hey everyone, I'm Prasoon. I lead the product for platforms here at Razorpay and been here for over a year now. All right, yay. Hi Nitin, how are you? So majorly
Hello,
today, what
everyone.
we really wanted to do today was take this opportunity and talk about the Bharat, the segment which is increasingly coming online. There are some estimates which actually peg the number of these entrepreneurs from Bharat at a number which is above 6 crores. And maybe Rajiv and Hitachi can actually further confirm that. But this is an increasingly important segment, especially because they are not only contributing to our economy, but now they are coming online. And now you can actually buy from them and you can actually interact with them. And this large segment can meaningfully contribute to our economy as they come online. So this is really a very interesting journey. And in this journey, we have two companies which are actually working with them and helping them come online and start selling. So this is something which I find extremely interesting from my perspective. And I had my own startup in a similar area, but 5-6 years back. So Rajiv, maybe we can start with you. Really wanted to understand from you what has been your experience working with this segment, especially which is trying to come online for the first time, and they are coming online from the perspective of trying to sell. So what are the unique challenges which you have faced? Would love to know about those.
Yeah, sure. And thanks, Prasoon, first of all, for inviting me. It's an exciting topic. And that's one of the reasons why I joined Meesho also, right, to experience this firsthand. So when we think about these target groups, right, and as you rightly said, uh, exposed to the internet, probably around the last 2 or 3 years, with tailwinds like Geo, bringing a lot of them online, etc. Right, and once you think about them, you should also realize that some of the first internet products that they have experienced are things like WhatsApp, right? So that's the first products that they kind of experience, and then they move on to social and some of the video kind of website, right? So the sellers that we have also a lot of the sellers that we have also fall into similar categories. And a lot of them are also selling online for the first time. They might have online shops, or they are like small manufacturers, etc. But a lot of them have not sold online also. So online commerce, especially selling online, everything is new to them, right? And this is the kind of target group that we deal with and try to help them, right? And when we think about the challenges for these target group, I would like to broadly, at least in my experience, I would like to broadly categorize them into four major like areas, right, which we need to be very careful of. One is familiarity, right? And when you talk about this, you need to understand that they need to, once they are experiencing the product, they need to be familiar with we need to understand their mental model and build products which are familiar to their mental model, right? For example, the kind of interactions that we are used to, the kind of products that we are used to, they are not, right? They have not experienced that. We have been kind of tuned to it for a long period of time, so it's different for them. So we need to think about that. So when it comes to UI UX, how intuitive you can be, do you hide your navigation under layers, or you have very upfront navigation? All of those things becomes very important. Do you communicate via icons, or do you communicate literally, right? All these things will become very important. I'll give you an anecdote, right? One of the things that in our password flow, we have something called as, you should have like uppercase letters, right? One of the requirements. And we had a small drop off in that funnel. And once we started digging, we understood that the word uppercase is not a very familiar kind of a word to them, right? They are used to like capital letters, things like that, right? And that's when we figured out these are some of the nuances that you understand when you try to understand their familiarity, right? So that's one point. I think the another point is decision making, right? A lot of them, when they come online, there is anyways a lot of anxiety. And we ask them to also take a lot of decisions when they are doing activities with your product. That becomes more additionally challenging to them, and the adoption kind of suffers there, right? So what we try to do, or the way that we should think about, is let the product do most of the heavy lifting, and they should be just like the product should be the major enabler and do the heavy lifting, and they should be able to perform talks in a minimal intrusive way, right? So things like recommending them with the ability to change. For example, when there is about pricing, etc., right, we recommend them this is something that we could do, and then you can change it if you want to, right? But this is what we can help you with. Similarly, like rules around cataloging, etc., making them less stringent, etc., right? So reduce the decision making. That's point number 2. Point number 3 is around, so when you think about this, right, like anything that you have experienced for the first time, think about when you first created a demand draft going into a bank, right? What did you do? You might have actually asked someone to come along with you, help you out in that process, right? They also do a similar thing. When they are actually doing something for the first time, they expect someone to help them out, right? Now, in a one way to do that is basically having someone call them, explain them, etc. But when you're thinking about large number of sellers, suppliers, etc., to make it more scalable, it has to be more product led, right? So we also think about that way, right? How can we ensure that when they're doing something, there is always someone, like they feel that there's someone to kind of help them out in that flow, right? So we do like stepper flows, bite-sized goals. We use a lot of video content, for example, to communicate. And when they are stuck, we give them multiple options. Try this. If not, then try this. If not, then let someone call you. So I think that's another thing, right? And the last thing, which I feel we have learned it the hard way also, and then understood, is removing any sort of anxiety and bringing in a sense of predictability, right? So for example, when they are doing something on the screen, there is a lot of anxiety around, okay, if I do this, what is going to happen, right? How is the product going to react? So you have to be very thoughtful around bringing that predictability. You do this is what you can expect, right? Or you take an action, you should be very clear. Your payment would be debited or credited within X number of days on your bank account, something like that, right? So making sure that predictability, understanding that anxiety and taking care of that is another thing which I feel is very important when we think about barriers and helping them this TG out. Yeah,
that makes sense. These 4 points are pretty interesting. Familiarity, product heavy lifting, or product being the enabler, and step-by-step onboarding, and then reducing anxiety makes a lot of sense. And I can also connect, like when you took those examples, I could actually connect how uppercase versus capital might not really gel with, or like really connect with this audience. So I'll move to Hitachi now. Hitachi, we heard from Rajiv, but I would really be interested in knowing from you, how has your experience been here? And if you can also draw out for us some similarities with what Rajiv said, and maybe if there are any differences.
So I think, as Rajiv rightly said, we both are targeting the same audience. 60 million users in India, primarily SMBs. Meesho and Cashify, we both are targeting. And I'm sure a lot of other people are trying to, be a part of the 60 million users in India. And Rajiv rightly said, there are a lot of scenarios. Definitely, we as a product guy, what we want, our product should be very shiny and elegant, and should have beautiful animation when any of our users interact with our product. But it doesn't work when we talk about non-tech savvy users, because what happened, they are not used to looking at under the card 3-dot button and find out what to do next. We had exactly the similar situation in Uni Shop. Means I'm sure a lot of people here, I'll just explain what is Uni Shop. So Phone Shop was Uni Shop initially when Cashify acquired it, and our TG audience was groceries, restaurant, and electronic store. Now phone shop is purely focused on electronic store here. And the similar challenge when we launched Uni Shop, it was an omni-channel solution for small retailers.
Right.
They can sell offline and they can also launch instantly their own website. Why I said website? Because initially we started with a word called e-commerce. Launch your own e-store. And trust me, people were not able to understand what we meant by e-stores. And within a couple of days, once we realized, after looking their journeys with different tools, we realized, no, e-store is not the right word we should be mentioning in our product. So we renamed it as their online store, basically. And then we started seeing the traction. People are actually enabling these online store for them. And another example is if I talk about the onboarding. When we talk about these small SMBs or small retailers in India, the biggest problem is onboarding. They need hand holding at every single step. Let's cataloging. Cataloging is the biggest problem when you talk about these. And initially when we started, we thought everybody will be, they're comfortable. They might be using their current POS or any other software, and building a catalog is a piece of cake. But we were totally wrong. So what we did to solve this onboarding problem, because any retailer, if you talk about, be it's a grocer or a restaurant or even a mobile retailer, the minimum catalog even for mobile retailer is 100 SKUs. And adding those SKUs to your offline and online channel is a nightmare for them. And they can't do it. They can't go in and click a picture. They can't go in and write a correct spelling of the product they are selling. So what we did to solve the problem, we solved the onboarding problem. We added a curated catalog, and you can add more than 700 products in less than 2 minutes when you want to get onboarded. So to solve the problem, you have to help them at every single step. As Rajiv clearly said, they use quite often videos. Similarly, what we were using tooltips across every single button, what to do and what not to do. And if you do this, it will happen this. So, and after solving the onboarding problem, we could see a huge fraction. People were able to add more than 100 to 100 products in a couple of seconds, and they were actually selling. And then we realized they need more details on top of it. Just launching an online store or adding a catalog will not help them solving the problem. Then we started adding a lot of payment instruments. And this is where another pieces came into the picture. So I take one step back and talk about onboarding.
Sure.
A lot of people, we think onboarding is just getting a user to your product. It can be an app, it can be a web, it can be anything. But I personally believe onboarding is every single step you force your user to take towards anything new you want to do in your app. So onboarding can be creating a catalog. Onboarding can be adding a first customer. This is an onboarding for the retailer or onboarding for a user, because you don't know how to add your first customer. Creating a first coupon for your customer and then sharing it on WhatsApp or any of the channels. Enabling your first payment mode. For example, we recently tied up with Razorpay, and we made sure the onboarding has to be frictionless, and
Right.
our user can activate a full-blown payment gateway, Razorpay, in less than 40 seconds, guys. This is the challenge. If you are able to solve such challenges, these small onboarding problems at every single step, I think you can create beautiful product for these users, what you have.
Sure.
So, yeah.
No, that's definitely interesting. And I'll probably, come back to that again,
Sure.
how the experience was 40-second experience. But right now, I think one very interesting thing, which I was thinking about as both of you were explaining, like in a more conventional product management perspective, and I just saw the data on the quick survey, which was done on this Zoom call, majority of us here are product managers. We think of like, the simplest framework, acquisition, activation, retention, et cetera, and what I really hearing both of you, it feels like it's an always ongoing journey. It doesn't stop at, you have acquired them or you have activated them. When do you, cross the threshold when you say that, yes, this is the person we have, activated and he's fully adopted our platform? So would love to understand from both of you, when does that threshold gets crossed? Does it ever get crossed or not?
In my opinion, the answer is, means I haven't seen this. Yes, you need to keep engaging them. You need to keep nudge them, and you need to keep helping them because they are dependent on you. Their customers are tech savvy, but they are not. So they need something that keep telling them what to do next. So today, if we talk about D2C business, majority of us, and we talk about marketing automation. Can you imagine your non-tech savvy users can do marketing automation by themselves? So the answer is, I do not think India is at that maturity state where the users are just, means you don't need to reactivate them, or you just not need to nudge them every day. So that's my answer to your question. Over to you, Rajiv.
Yeah, and I think Prasoon, my answer would also be similar to Hitachi, that I don't think that journey ever ends, right? Because you acquire them, after that you activate them, there is a different problem that's new to them, etc. Right? And once they come into the platform also, it's a dynamic platform. It's always changing. There are more suppliers getting added. There are new product lines. There are dynamic changes. The user dynamics changes. So it is always a constant game of succeeding, right, in that sort of an environment. And that journey is never ending, right? Because in this constant environment, you also need to ensure that you are helping the sellers that you have acquired and activated also continuously be successful in this, right? How do you handhold them? How do you help them? What tools you provide? Everything is needed to help them succeed. So for me also, it is
it's
the
an
journey ever ends.
onboarding, right? So let me come to this another aspect. Rajiv, both of us worked at Gojek some time back, and we used to have an amazing research-led product development process. Now that the context has changed for you at Meesho, and I've read a lot about research being an important part of product development there as well. So this so-called onboarding journey, just wanted to understand from you, how has researched, like how has Meesho used research in terms of figuring out the challenges in this onboarding journey, and then how have you then maybe optimized those?
Yeah, sure. So how it works is, in at least in for us, is there is a dedicated research team, a very good research team that we have, and our product managers are also expected to talk to suppliers, be very close to the suppliers and all that, right? Through that process, and as Hitachi was saying, onboarding two parts, right? One is getting them on the platform, like new sellers getting onboarded on the platform. And secondly, it is also about everything that you launch, every product feature, every activity that they need to do, etc., etc. How do you onboard them towards that activity and make them successful, right? So let me take the former one, which is like onboarding them onto the platform, which is also a challenging, actually very challenging prospect. So when you think about onboarding on the platform, as I again say, going back to that lens of what type of users these are, like new to e-commerce, a lot of anxiety, what is going to happen? Am I going to be successful? Are there downsides to it? Are there penalties? There are like hundreds and thousands of questions that they have. Some of them have friends, some of doing this, so they have known from them. Some of them don't have any friends, so they are like trying it out because they saw like an ad on Facebook. So all of these are there, right? So when we think about onboarding, we go long back, like way back, and we think in three aspects, right? One is the awareness part. Like, right, how do you create an awareness about Meesho? There is an option like this. This is a good option. You should be able to consider, and all that, right? So there's the awareness part we try to do. And during awareness part, and mostly this is driven by performance marketing, branding, all of these kind of things, right? Like, but we try to enforce our value proposition and enforce our messaging right from the awareness part itself, right? So if you see our ads, if you see our TV commercials, etc., is reinforcing that part about the value proposition part, right? And that's how you get the awareness part. So a lot of people now are know about your product and kind of are excited and want to try it out, right? So once they get aware, the next step is about consideration, right? We call it as consideration. So this is a stage wherein you know about something, but now you're actually actively considering whether this is an option for me or not, right? I know that there is a Meesho called an online platform, etc. But is this something which is like something which is relevant to me? or will I be successful, right? And this is the point where they have like all of these questions which I said. Okay, are others doing it? Have they been successful? Will I be successful in front of all these huge sellers? Are there smaller sellers who are able to do this, all this, right? And this is where you try to understand, and this is where the research comes into play. This is where understanding the users comes into play. And this is where we try to understand what are those anxiety points, what are those points which will tip them in favor of trying this new thing out, and then reinforce that messaging, right? Via copy, via whatever content it is, via social proofing, for example, showing examples of sellers who have succeeded and all of this, right? And this is where you try to get them to the next step from consideration, right? And once you've gone through these two steps, the third thing is about now, as I've decided that, hey, you know what, seems interesting. Seems like this is something I should try out. Now let me actually try to onboard onto this platform and see how this works, right? And this is again, a lot of challenge comes in. Because when you think about seller onboarding, it's a complex piece in itself. You need to have GST, you need to have a bunch of other things, right? And a lot of the people like, what is GST? Why do I need it? GST mil gaya to fir there will be tax implications. All of this kind of anxiety comes into play, right? So now here is when, like, as I was saying before, you take a step-by-step journey, right? Small thing, it's okay. Just give us the email ID, password, or a phone number. The next step, okay, do you have GST? No. If you don't have, there is a place where you can help out and all of that, right? So you go to that step-by-step journey, and then you try to get them converted, right? So this is some of the things that you do. I can go on from the other part also, like how we get them onto different features and activities. But in a general, this is how we get the new suppliers. I would let Hitachi also speak about his experience, given the interest of time.
So to be honest, means as Rajiv clearly said, onboarding small retailer or these suppliers it's a tedious task. It's not easy. They are not anywhere. The acquisition channel has to be defined very clearly how you are going to acquire them. And once you acquire them, how you ensure they use your product on regular basis. So when we talk about Cashify, people think Cashify is purely into buying a phone, add a value, and sell back as a refurbished phone in the market. But what Phone Shop we are actually building a network of small retailers so that they can they can exchange a phone even at their store, which they are currently not able to. And then they can also get offers from brands like OEMs, the exchange offers which we see across all the e-commerce platform. Even though these are the capabilities we want to give these users, the users are still reluctant. They still feel, "Are kaise hoga? How are we gonna get the payment done? I don't want to take the GST because I'm happy. I don't want to generate any new invoice. I don't want to get into tax implications." So yes, there is a mindset, and I'm sure in couple of months, I won't say months, in few years, the mindset will change. They are realizing the value of going digital, and how they can cater to their customer will definitely change. But yes, it still required time. People are getting mature. There is a audience which is getting matured and using such products on regular basis. But yes, the next generation or in next couple of years, people will realize and everybody start using such platforms over the period of time.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I'll probably quickly come back, Hitachi, to you when you mentioned that 40 seconds.
I know.
So I just wanted to understand from you, how did you solve the problem for your users? Like what is that you were really trying to solve, and how did it help?
So again, I think I need to also tell what Phone Shop does.
Yes.
Phone Shop does not actually let you sell any other platform. So Phone Shop is a full stack point of sale software that has basically 4 major part of it. One is you manage inventory, and then this is one piece where you manage all your inventory. Second, we make you omni-channel, so you can sell offline, you can sell online. Any customer that comes to your store can also go to your online store and buy a product, and vice versa, can go to your online store and place an order and can collect your phone or any other item from the store itself. Third piece is more of a payments ecosystem. So we ensure if merchant's customer wants to give money to the merchant, he will be able to take it without any tech pain, any integration or anything. This is the third piece. And fourth is marketing automation. Just launching a website or an online store will not let your re-engage your customer. So we gave power in the palm of small retailers to automate the entire marketing for them. Our app automatically tell you what to do. These are the customers not visiting your store from past 30 days. Why don't you send them an offer? So that kind of automation we have built over the period of time for our user, because they need it. This is the demand of customers. Today, customer needs a discount coupon. Customer needs a motivation, come to the store or buy it online. So this is what we do as of now. Again, it has another layer to it. While you are selling a new phone, you also get an exchange bonus. You can take an old phone and sell it back to Cashify. So the problem when it comes to these pieces is stitching. It's very easy to say we can build something which is extremely easy, but building something, it takes a lot of effort. And this is where, when we launched it, a lot of customers were looking for the payment instrument, how they ensure they will be able to collect payments across the channels, across the payment instrument without buying any hardware. So this is where we did our research, and we could see none of the PGs, again, sorry, I might be blunt here, none of the PG provider in India have such capability where it can be stitched in directly into the app. So this is where we spoke to you guys, and you guys built something called Onboarding API, because we wanted, getting a PG is a painful process. You go to the PG provider, you share all the documents, you wait for 3 to 4 days, and then you get the confirmation what you get, and then you don't know what to do with the credentials. How are you going to integrate?
Sure.
So with such capability, we were very clear, either we have to build something like this which is instantaneous, or we will not build it. Because in that case, you create a chaos. You get a lot of calls, and I don't know how your customer is going to, manage this. And this is where Razorpay, and I think we were one of the first partner who integrated Onboarding API. With the Onboarding API, we solved this problem, and we were able to take these small retailers online with their own full-blown payment gateway in less than 40 seconds. And that's means it's remarkable. If you talk about 40 seconds is nothing.
Yeah, no, and that's in a way, it feels great to be, part of, in some way, a small part of your success story here. And yeah, it's a great validation also for the effort which me and my team have put in. But with this, I'll probably move to the next area which I wanted to talk about with both of you, and then after this we can actually take questions from the audience. I hope that's okay. Cool.
Yeah, perfect.
So one of the other things which come, like whenever we talk about going to tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 remote areas of India, and in India, obviously, like language changes maybe every few kilometers. And constantly one of the things which is being talked about is regionalization and localization, like, really helps. So it really helps in, whatever goal you might have, acquisition or activation or retention. But both of you have actually worked on products which are used across India. So really wanted to understand from you, how does that impact, and where exactly it impacts in terms of, let's say, business metrics, as well as in terms of the feedback from the user. How does it help them? So really wanted to understand regionalization and localization. How is that helping each of your product experience for your customer segment?
So Rajiv, you want to take this first?
Yeah, sure. I can.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, I'll talk about it briefly. So as you rightly said, Prasoon, we also feel that it's very important, and one of the integral part for us to be able to reach the audience and reach effectively, right? Because I mean, the common language is English in how we build products, right? But that might not be the primary language which some of our target groups interact with or are familiar with, right? So we have also gone through that journey. And as you can imagine, it's not a very easy journey when it comes to India, right? Like when you have so many languages, so many localizations, etc. And then you are always working under constraints. So you have to be always optimized as to what is the right approach, what's the right path to take, etc., etc. So we have also gone through that journey. And our journey started off with something like our outreach that's when we first started experimenting with localization, right? So when we send communication, be it on both sides, supplier side as well as user side, that's when we started first experimenting with localization and understanding how the conversion works. But does the CTRs improve? Does the activity rates improve, etc., right? When we do that, and then we found a good amount of success. There are also some learnings. For example, we say that even like going full on with a certain language, instead of that, if when we use something like English, right, that's more successful, right? That has a better sort of a conversion rate somehow. And then you do not go full on with localization, right? So there are some familiar words like order, like free, and these are words you don't need to actually literally translate into any language, right? You keep it as is, because that's something that you're familiar with. So you need to understand that nuance around like what they are familiar with, going back to the familiarity thing as you're talking about, right? And bringing in like keeping the things that they are familiar with, but bringing that additional context and changes, which will make the message, landing the message more effective. So this is something that we learned during that communication and phase also. And given that we had some initial success, then we decided to now we are considering going like localization on the product side also, right? So we recently did it on the user side. We have seen fair bit of success, and then we are thinking about now also on the seller side, how do you go about it in each of those steps, right? And we have built enablers towards that, right? So we have built CRM tools, like we don't need any code changes to deploy changes of copy, etc. So at least on the awareness and consideration phase, you can directly experiment with different types of contents across geographies and see what works, what not. So we have built enablers. Now we'll be going towards the next step of going full on localization part. So yeah, these were some of my personal experiences. Yeah.
Thank you, Rajiv. I think the story is same, Prasun. The first language after English we launched in Phone Shop or Uni Shop was English. Because when Rajiv said English, I couldn't stop myself. Like, hey, mere ko batane do, ruko. So joking. So English is important because we, even today, if you look at WhatsApp, when we use, most of us use English over there. Even the SMS we are doing, it's English. And people are quite familiar with it. Just pure English, it might switch them off. They just don't want to use it. So I'll give you one example. When we launched in Maharashtra, I was getting calls. We don't want to use English. We want our app to be in Marathi. So we thought of, finding out what will happen if we add one more language. We just started tracking how users are interacting after launching a new language. So Phone Shop is available in 7 languages as of now, and we are adding 3 more in next 1 quarter. Means based on the customer's geography, what we have. But if you look at the difference, so what we have, as you said, research tools, we have a tool called User Experience. It helps you to find out how a user is interacting with your product. You launch a specific feature or you launch a new language, how people are actually reading it and tapping on a particular button or going somewhere. You can actually see that journey with your own eyes, and you can help him solving the problem over the period of time. So these tools help. And yes, localization is one part of it. And anything, any language you want to launch in, it has to be properly written. The problem, one instance I'll share, there are a lot of apps, I can't name them. They just launch the localization. They simply pick up translator, go there, put English and convert into Kannada or any other language. And when you look at the real sense of that particular sentence, it's hilarious. It is. So don't do that. If you are focusing on localization, make sure what you want to say or what you want to mention, it has to be correctly written. Else you're going to offend those users and you're going to lose such users from your platform. So that's one more point I wanted to talk about when it comes to localization.
Very interesting, right? Don't localize fully. Keep the order or the other keywords. Right. And then when you're doing it, do it properly. Otherwise, it might actually be hilarious.
Else don't do it. If you do not have bandwidth, you are on an MVP or you are at a stage where you do not have the bandwidth, let's not do it.
Yeah. Makes sense. Cool. So I guess maybe time to move towards, question from our audience. I at least see there are 3-4 questions. And the first one is actually pretty interesting. It's essentially asking, can research cover up for lack of A/B testing? I think there's a lot of, Sandeep, you've asked the question, but there's already a bias which I can read in the question. So can thorough research cover up for lack of A/B testing? As A/B tests are subject to a lot of user bias, an issue with selecting the sample size, and it might be a lot of money/time invested to develop two variants, which in a tight scenario may not be feasible. Okay, as I read through the question, I don't see the bias. I guess it's a very interesting question. And Rajiv, at least Rajiv and I have seen probably our fair share of A/B tests in a lot of other contexts. But how is it in your organizations? Like we talked about research briefly, Rajiv. So what's your personal take on it? Like, let's not give a theoretical answer here. I want, what would you do?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give an answer. I don't know if it'll be theoretical or not. You can tell me. So, see, this is how I think about it, right? When I think about product management, what exactly we are doing as product managers is we are increasing the probability of success, right? So everyone has a hypothesis that something, this is going to work or not. And what we are doing over the course is ensuring that the probability of that being successful, we are trying to improve it, right? And no matter what you do, there is always this question mark of one, whether it is successful or not, and secondly, how much more, like how successful it was, right? So there are two parts. And what I feel is here both comes into play. Research helps you increase that probability of your hit rate, right? Wherein you understand the nuances, you apply those lens and you ensure that all of this is taken care of. But at the same time, at the end of the day, at least I cannot personally say that whether it will be successful or not with 100% confidence, right? Always when the rubber hits the road, that's when you know whether you have find the right answer or not. And for that, I think definitely testing it, in my opinion, helps, right? To one, understand whether whatever you imagine, whether that was right or not, and secondly, how much of it, right? Like if it was like very trivial improvement, it was a very good improvement. So that attribution also is important. So yeah, that's what my take is, Prashant.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. You would never have the confidence. Hitachi, what about you?
So honestly, I have sold A/B testing tools throughout my life. So if you ask me A/B testing, yes, research has to be there. But so if you look at Mints, I used to sell. So throughout my career, I've been more of a product and pre-sales combined, majority pre-sales. So I have sold all major market leader A/B testing and marketing automation tool through my life. So if you ask me, A/B testing is essential. Obviously, research has to be there. It helps you to prove your hypothesis, or it helps you to understand how a simple change of a color or a size of a button can change your entire CTR and can actually reduce your funnel dropout. So I think you should incorporate it. There are few tools available. If you are an entrepreneur trying to build something, can't afford it, just incorporate it somehow. There are tools available in the market free of cost. So yes, that's my only takeaway here when it comes to A/B testing. But yes, you simply can't replace it with only research. Research is essential to create an hypothesis, and then you can run A/B testing on top of it.
Yeah, like if you have potential to disrupt some key business metrics, I would never launch a product just on the basis of research. Like it's one of the core parts of testing it, making sure there's actually a positive impact, validating it, and then taking it forward.
Correct. So, let me share one more journey specifically to this. Yes. So we did before I joined Cashify, we did a deep dive research on exchange in India. Still 70% of the phones are sold offline. Rest 30% are online. And people are still selling the old phone and selling it to a merchant, which is totally unorganized. We launched an app specifically after talking to, I think, more than 1,000 retailers. We launched an app which was primarily into exchange. The research was there. We launched it. Nothing was there apart from exchange. It failed miserably. So it failed because we just launched it based on the research. We did not do what else we need.
When you say exchange, you mean phone exchange?
Phone exchange, yes. You can go to any offline store and you say, hey, I want to buy a new phone. Why don't you take my old phone? Yeah, pardon me. I think we use it quite often. So I did not explain what I meant by exchange. I'm talking about you're exchanging an old phone. You give your old phone and buy a new phone. And whatever the device value is, you can just reduce it from your invoice value. So we launched it, but the only thing was missing is for the testing of the features. I won't say A/B testing here. I would call it a multivariant feature testing, where apart from just bringing an exchange, what we also needed is a prerequisite. How somebody can add a product while you are exchanging, how somebody can send that particular data back to us. It was a cumbersome process. So it is essential, guys. Just research can help you to take one path, but it might not be able to help you to solve the real problem. That's my take, my experience here.
Got it. Makes sense. Okay, there is one specific question about what we had just discussed. Do you ask any specific other documents which are required for a merchant to be onboarded? I think it's a more specific question around the documents, etc. required. Like if anybody is interested, we can definitely, feel free to reach out to us. I'm there on LinkedIn. Or Shafiq is there also on LinkedIn. We can definitely answer. I'm assuming I'll come to it again later on the Razorpay specific questions, which few people have asked. But there's another interesting question. I'll go to it first from Nitin. His question is, if we want to work on retention of such customers who aren't really comfortable with tech, how should we go about it? Is giving only monetary benefit? Does giving only monetary benefit works?
My view. I'll make it
I've
quick.
asked some trade secret question.
I'll make it quick. It depends on the TG, Nitin.
Right.
So if you are looking for B2C customer, non-tech savvy, but B2C, it might help. But if you talk about purely B2B side of it, it doesn't. We have tested in the past. It doesn't work. And it was a good amount of really, really good benefits. We even shared with our B2B users. It didn't work. So I'm sure Rajiv can share his experience on this.
Yeah, I think it's a good question, but also I'll slightly take a philosophical answer to it, because I think if you need money to retain and you need to continue giving monetary benefits to retain, then there is something wrong, right? You are not probably providing the value that the product is supposed to kind of build, right? Because your value that the product provides is basically why the customer is retained, right? We do use monetary benefits in a very temporary way to ensure that the initial barriers are kind of like they get passed through the initial barriers, get accustomed to the new way of things and what the product provide values, and thereafter the product should kind of take over the mantle of retaining the customer, right, or the user. So that's my take of it. I think you can use monetary benefits initially, but then over a period of time, it's the responsibility of the product and the value it provides to retain the customer.
Yeah, makes sense. So there were a bunch of other questions around, can paid survey tools help us take opinions in a meaningful manner? Or there was even a question on what are some good survey methods to conduct polls to potential business owners or customers? It's a very specific question. Do you have any answer around this?
So the question was potential
the
tools to conduct surveys.
Does paid survey help in a meaningful manner in your research? That's the first question. And
my recommendation, if we talk about paid surveys, it's a big no. Don't do it. Try to see if you can build your own team somehow, and it depends on the TG what you have. If you do not have a manpower, try to outsource it to somebody who can do it for you, but not Just don't go for paid service, just running an ad and see if user can give a survey, or pay 10 rupees or 5 rupees for each survey to fill in. No, this will not give you the right data. So that's my take on this. I'm sure Rajiv and Prasun can share.
Yeah, I agree. I agree to that. I feel always in terms of surveys and all that, wherein it's actually relevant to getting unbiased information. I think going the organic route is always helpful. But at the same time, I've also seen that sometimes when someone participates in research and then etc., we give them some kind of a monetary benefit. So if the question was kind of related to that, then maybe it's okay, right? Because it's kind of like a monetary benefit, some kind of a benefit for them to participate in the research or the survey. So I've seen that also sometimes working. I'm not sure if I understand the question entirely, but this is
I think in general, what I recollect from my research sessions was giving any kind of incentive for responding to your survey was a strict no-no, because that incentivizes your respondents. They think that if they are already incentivized in answering a certain way, like they have to make you feel good, or at least on a lot of other research visits which I used to go, survey. Yeah, but in general, like if you're talking about compensating, then that would be a very minimal compensation. It will not be material in any which way, and then you'll have to also ensure that you're not going back to the same customers again and again. So and you clarify this is a one time and we'll not get back to you, just to ensure that you're not really creating any kind of bias.
Yeah.
Hope that,
Correct.
yeah.
Correct. I think I've seen certain products which says that, hey, you know what, you take this survey, help us answer a few questions, and you get a $5 sort of a thing, right? It does happen, and I don't know the efficacy of that. At least in my personal experience, I've never done that. So yeah.
Maybe the use case for them might be different. I don't know. Maybe it's an incentive to push in the onboarding journey to some other step. All right. I see one interesting question. Is simplification one of the end goals of a product? Again, a very philosophical question. My preference is definitely yes. The simpler the product, and I think you folks definitely talked about. But do you want to just share a remark on this? Is that the end goal of a product, simplification?
Yeah, again, a slightly philosophical one, but again, I'll answer it in a philosophical way. I don't think there is an end goal. The product development is always an evolution or a journey, right? So there is no end goal as such, I think. And if you were to say that, yes, it's simplicity is one of the guiding principles, and whatever decision you take based on that, right? And over a period of time, as when you go through that journey, your product becomes simpler and simpler. But again, simple, intuitive, these are all very subjective terms, right? And then it's very contextual also. And then you have to define based on your target group exactly what simple means. Simple for us is like an icon, which is very intuitive, but the same target group which we are talking about, for them, it's not simple, right? So I think for me, what you define simple is like in the most effective way, if you are able to communicate, and in the most effective and efficient way, the user is able to use the product. That is simple, right? And whatever you want to do in that sense, that's what you need to do. And I think that's always a journey. There's no end goal to it, is what I feel.
It's a journey.
Yeah, exactly. Rajiv rightly said. So add to what Rajiv said. So making a 5-step journey versus a 2-step journey. A lot of product guys I have seen, they try to minimize the journey, but it depends on the audience. Sometimes if the non-tech savvy groups we are talking about, the journey has to be easy. A 5-step journey can increase your adoption of that particular feature versus a 2-step journey. So it means try to make it easy for the user. Simpler can be a different definition for different users.
Got it. All right. I guess, Hitachi, I'll just take one question. I see another question again on this onboarding API. So the question is, how did it help the Razorpay's onboarding API? Did you design your own UI on top of it? Did it improve payment system adoption of your customers?
So I'll answer it in two basically 2 points. One, yes, we built our own UI on top of it because we wanted, we also take a lot of documents from our customers so that we can pass those, we can reutilize them and enable a couple of features for them. So it was not a redundant sharing of documents from one application to another. So it reduced the friction and they were able to simply say, I need Razorpay. That's it. I need Razorpay. We were able to pass on that information back to Razorpay in the onboarding API. And the account was able, it's get activated within 30 seconds. The account activation tag with Razorpay as of now is 30 seconds. And the day we launched it, within 7 days, 900 merchant activated Razorpay account and transacted on the platform. Means obviously they did not, their customer did. So hope that answers your question.
That's great. Kondinia, okay, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing the name correctly, is asking, recommend survey tools to reach out to customers, please. I have Typeform and Google Form. These are the ones I've used the most, but
there are many means, Pratik rightly said. Typeform is costly, depends on what kind of service you want, how you want to make it flow. But yes, Google Form, I think we all have used Google Forms, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, I think same here. My experience has been mostly Typeform, Google Form, at times SurveyMonkey. Yeah.
Okay, I see a very interesting question from Harshit. I think it connects to what all we are trying to do as companies and products. How do we build trust in the eyes of the buyer for the seller?
Yeah, good question.
Who wants to go first?
Yeah, Hitachi, you want to take it first?
I do not have answer to this. If I have the answers, I could have resolved a lot of problems for myself. So, Harshit, to be honest, I do not have the answer. And it is the most difficult part. Building a trust anywhere in any of the ecosystem, if you are able to crack it, nobody can beat you. None of the competition can do anything. So I do not have the real answer for this.
Yeah, I can give it a try. And a very good example that comes to mind outside of, like, it's a very common example everyone's seen is, right, building trust between two parties in a two-sided marketplace. I think Airbnb had the toughest job to crack, right? Because it was like unique that you are getting someone visit your house and share your house, which is the most personal space, right? So how do you build that level of trust so that one, you are able to with high conviction allow someone to do that, and then someone is able to do that, especially in a foreign country which you don't know, etc., right? I think that's one very great example of how a trust is built between two people in the marketplace, right? And you think about how it was done, right? There are a lot of trust markers available. Airbnb used reviews and ratings very, very, like, ensuring that it was one, the sanctity of that was maintained, right? Very clear ways of what is right, what is wrong, and then ensuring that made, like, everyone, that was the main trust marker to achieve that, right? So I think that's a great example from where we can learn, and a lot of places that can be applied, right? So when it comes to let's say e-commerce world, what we typically try to do is understand what are the proxies of trust, right? And from a customer point of view, and it could be around quality of the product, it could be around the service of the supply seller, and it could be around bunch of things, right? And then you figure out what are the best proxies to communicate around those, what are the best proxies and trust markers to communicate around those aspects, and then you try to gather those information in a very reliable and scalable way, and then present it back to the customer. So that's what I would say, in a very, like, a framework sort of way. That's what I think what we should do.
Yeah, no, the Airbnb example is spot on. Okay, I have one question which I realize I should ask both of you. If I want to sell online, how do I go on Phone Shop? And then maybe Rajiv, you can answer later as the last question. How do I go on Meesho? How do I register and start selling online?
So answer is straightforward. Go to Play Store, download Phone Shop, and within a couple of seconds, you are live. That's it. It's that easy.
Interesting.
We are going to ask you just 2 questions: your name, your business name, and the date of the day you started your business. That's it.
Great. I wish my answer would have been that it's so simple, but I think our regulations and the way that some of our expectations are. So you go to supply.meesho.com or you download our app and then go to a section which has become a supplier, and then you provide all the details, and the details we ask is phone number, bank details, and your GST number, and then that's it. You're onboarded. Sometimes we will do a KYC check just to ensure, else you're there to start business.
Got it. All right. With this, I think we've come to the close of our session, and I really enjoyed. I didn't realize that the whole hour has gone. Just looked at it a couple of minutes back, and I realized the time's over. Thanks a lot to all of you for tuning in. For me, it was actually personally a very interesting and actually a learning session. So it was great from learning from both of you, Rajiv and Hitachi, and thanks for taking out the time to do this. I also thank all the attendees who've joined. Thanks for tuning in, and hopefully we'll get to hear more about Meesho and Phone Shop soon in the market. With so many exciting features you folks are building, would love to see what's next, which is going to come out soon.
Sure. Thanks, Prasoon. Thanks everyone for attending.
Thanks everyone. You take care. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Hey, hi, Kondinya. Thank you. Bye-bye.